he brings up the corn palaces. Yeah, there's the corn palaces, man. I've talked to some people about that, and they didn't even know what they looked like in spite of living here, because you live somewhere. It's like the phenomenon of people who live in Manhattan their whole lives, but never go to the top of the new Empire State Building.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Awaken to Joy, and we are back again having a wonderful conversation with Blessed. So say hi, and for anyone who doesn't know you, just explain who you are.
Hey Blessed.
Hello. Yes, I go by Blessed online, Dustin, first name, if you prefer, no biggie. I am someone who just very recently decided to step away from kind of the typical 9-to-5 American lifestyle. And I'm living through heart-based means now and trying to teach other people how to do that as well. Oh, well. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's where I'm at right now.
And your addition to the crew, we're seeing a tale about. Can we introduce Simba as well?
Yes, that was... I just upgraded my computer desk between part one and now, so... I now have a spot for him where he can just lay and hang out and watch and all of that. So I'm sure you'll see his tail from time to time. He's a wonderful fur ball, and hopefully he's very quiet. Yes, okay.
Spiritual assistant.
Right?
Yes, yeah. My assistant is on standby,
reminding you what's important in life.
Yes, right.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're just going to get back into the conversation. It's lovely seeing you again and chatting and catching up. So we might as well get into it. We were talking about food forest, and we were talking about that whole idea around sustainability, food forests, and what that looks like, and the dream of it. The reality of it as well. So how do you see it? And because both you and Omondi know what it is to have grandparents who rural, How do you see it going now? What's the dream for you when it comes to that?
Oh man, I would ideally and I have dreams of this that are varying degrees of vivid, but where I would want to be set up in a community somewhere where we're all kind of just pitching in to this nice big food forest area where we can all kind of just pick and choose what we want. It's, biodiverse. It's all very good food. It's not, Monsanto slop or what have you. And yeah, just everybody contributes. And there's just, this, I guess, suppose this goes hand in hand with, dietary changes. And as you get more into more spiritually involved, even, you kind of need less food as you continue, or at least that's what I'm finding. It seems like that's common. So just having something available early spring, having something available late fall, and there's just enough to get you through the winter, but you don't have to have a huge space, but it's got very diverse things that are very good for you. Seeds in the fruit, for example. That'd be nice.
Right? We were just talking about the grapes. I complain about it constantly. The other day, we went to a shop that I'm not going to talk about, and we went and bought some grapes, and they called it something like candy cotton or candy floss. And I was like,
Yeah, candy floss.
And when I tasted one, I shit you not, it tasted like candy floss, but it was green. And I spat it out. I spat it out because I remember when I was a kid going to Brownies and I saw a bottle of grapes and I thought they were real, but they were a prop for some play we were doing. And I picked them up and the texture was exactly the same. Flashback syndrome. I was like, no one's eating those grapes. I don't care who likes it. I took the whole bunch of grapes. I threw them all in the bin. I was like, they ain't got one seed in there. It tastes very rubbery, and I am convinced that I just ate some form of plastic. That's how viscerally, that was my visceral reaction to it. And it's foreign. The idea of grapes, that seedless grapes, to me, it's not that I don't understand how they came about. I remember it's because I remember when they came about, and I was like, we can't have this seedless. This is me at like 8 years old. We can't have these seedless grapes becoming a thing. The next thing we'll have is it's crustless toast, and that after that we've lost the plot. This is me at 8.
But that happened.
And it infuriated me back then, because I said, we can't do this. That's spoiled. We can't do it. And they used to be like, Shem, just because you eat it doesn't mean everyone has to eat it. I said, if you don't like the seeds, then guess what? You don't like grapes. Okay?
Yeah.
You don't like the seeds. You don't like the skin. Then you don't eat grapes. Move on. There's so many different. Oh gosh. Any thoughts?
Well, you know what? When I hear this, it's funny because it's kind of like when you're out of your alignment. So basically, you're forcing to eat some things you fundamentally don't like its natural state. So it's kind of like perhaps that it's not even good for you, not because the seeds aren't in it, even though it's look like it might be GMO or whatever. More so because fundamentally you're rejecting it, the idea of the fruit having the seeds in it or that particular fruit, because it's a bit tart when you taste the seeds. I like it personally, but I can understand why some people may not resonate with it. So you may not meant to have it. So what do you think? Do you think that could be seen that way?
Yeah. I think everybody's different, and this fruit, this veggie, this grain, whatever, maybe you have a very natural proclivity towards eating it. And I'm not saying that you're like, not from a craving or like, oh, I must eat, not obsessive, but just those gentle nudges that are like, you should probably have something salty right now. You should probably have something that's sugary right now, whatever. But yeah, I think there's different foods out there that are better or worse for different people. I will say, I think fruit is by far one of the better things for people to eat. And it was funny to hear people like Darius, for example, speak on the idea that fruit was like the original food, because, yeah, that seems to track for several reasons. I mean, this plant just grew this entire thing and is like, here, eat this. I don't have to kill the plant. I don't have to harm anything. It's just, here it is. So yeah, I think fruit, number one, stands out as something that I would imagine most people would want, if not need. But yeah, and then going to the idea of seeds, yeah, the seeds are there for a reason. They're important. And as far as I can tell from people's various research out there, the seeds are where like the power of the food is when it comes to fruit, for example. So yeah, if grapes speak to you, then you should probably have a grape. If for some reason you're really feeling like you need some asparagus, well, you should probably just have some asparagus. It doesn't matter if it's breakfast, just have your asparagus or whatever. I don't know. Do people eat asparagus for breakfast? Maybe they do. Maybe I'm just out of the loop. I don't know. It doesn't do it for me.
I eat it whenever, like, it depends what time breakfast is for me. Then I'll eat it.
I guess you can get a brunch and that will,
But I don't have it all year round, so
like a sort of like an omelette and asparagus or whatever you want to cook it with, like a piece of meat for some people. But it may work.
We don't eat it all year round. It's like, so we did our food forest, and you eat it when it's available.
Oh yeah, this is another thing as well. The year-long availability. It's really funny, and I like to see your interpretation of this as well. The paradox that you can witness between the so-called environmental crisis and how we expect to have all year long same fruit, even though we can't produce it during certain period of time, but yet we import these fruits to us, which we should kind of relinquish the idea of that. In a way, because we should kind of probably produce what you can eat locally, depending on the season. And I like also the fact that you mentioned, like, if you desire to eat some, like, say, some grapes, then you should probably eat grapes. Do you think also that being a part of being in tune with your natural self is also knowing, what people call craving, when you have cravings of something, and also kind of get knowledgeable with the idea of season and when certain fruit should be eaten or not? Or do you think it doesn't matter because after all it is a season in Chile and the fruit is still produced in season? How do you view this?
Right. Yeah, that's a funny one given the way that the economy is anymore, and having access to everything all the time forever, effectively. But I feel like so it's entering autumn where I'm at, for example. Your body goes through that, whether you enjoy autumn or not, or whatever your proclivities are, you're going through it. And there are certain things that are coming out, towards the end of the season. There, walnuts, for example, they just dropped a couple weeks ago. Maybe there's a reason. There's something in those walnuts that, as the season gets cooler, drier, whatever, maybe you should go crack one of those open and have one, for example. I feel like I agree with you on that things that are in season for a reason, and you should probably eat those. Now, do I think I don't believe it's a detriment, on the other hand, to have something that is in season in Chile right now, but not here in the Midwest where it's, getting cold and crappy. So I would think that if we were to get to a more natural state, we would just be eating what's in season when it's in season. There'd be plenty of variety in that. Like, I'm sure people would be like, oh, I don't want to eat apples for 3 months or whatever. There's plenty of food. It's just we don't grow a lot of those varieties, number one. But yeah, beyond that, I feel like when it comes to cravings are great if you've gone through the process of getting your gut straight, your diet straight, etc. Like you've had a reset at some point. Like you did a 24-hour fast, 48-hour fast, something like that, and kind of let your body clean out so you're not craving the fast food that you had for a week straight or whatever. There's a difference between your body nudging you in a direction for something and your obsessive tendencies that are kind of invisible to you, trying to direct you in certain ways. So that being said, I do every now and then get a nudge for ice cream, and I listen to that 100% of the time. So
genuine cravings and not so genuine cravings, because obviously it's more addiction that we may have, I suppose. Right.
Yeah. Habitual patterns that end up being, obsessions. Which you can, behavioral addiction, I think they call that. Is that what that is?
I choose ice cream. When I choose it, I don't feel guilty about it. If I choose it, I don't feel guilty, but I don't attach any guilt to it because I'm that will be nice. And then I go with that.
Right. Oh, well, and when it comes to guilt and stuff, where did you get that guilt from if you were to feel guilty because you were having ice cream? Did you give yourself that guilt, or did somebody else tell you you're going to get fat because you had ice cream, or whatever it is? On the note of ice cream, just for funsies, when I got my diet straight and all of that, I did this at the very beginning of the year, dropped 40 pounds over what was it, 2 months or so of just crap, just fell off. I decided that I was going to have an ice cream for a week straight after I did this, just because I felt like it, just to see. I had an ice cream diet. And once you get yourself straight, you can do a lot of things and your body's like, yeah, it's fine. But you got to get there first, if you're running on your gut bacteria, as they'll tell you, or whatever, telling you must eat this thing that you've been feeding me, then maybe that's not actually you. It's your body telling you to go eat some fatty crap. So,
well, I don't know the validity of this information that I'm just gonna share. I've heard that people did some research. Some people, meaning that some scientists did some research about gut health, and they were basically saying that when you pass gas, just to be correct, so basically you're meant to smell it. Because this is sending a signal to your brain that basically allow your brain to release the right hormones that will allow you to stabilize your gut in return. Almost as if we are like a self improvement machine.
Yeah, it's like a feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
Allow it to take place. I don't know
I
how
think the
true it
idea
is.
was that you fart and then you smell it, and then that smell sends off a hormone that triggers a craving for you to go and get the food that would regulate that bacteria.
Interesting.
If you see what I mean, like, oh, you're going to need more lemons, or there is too much alkaline here, or there is too much acid here. And then the next day you crave that, and then you're supposed to listen to that. But then because we're way out of whack,
probably because of lifestyle. I mean, we are for a lot of people, they have to wake up in the morning, go to work, and not necessarily a heart-based, type of occupation. So they'll most likely prevent themselves from farting in front of people, which means they will limit the amount of time they will pass gas.
I forgot about that.
Which will potentially destabilize, based on that research, would stabilize basically your gut health, because your gut health is due to the fact that you can send a signal to the brain. The brain can send back a signal to your gut and say, okay, let's fix it by desiring this food and whatnot. Then I guess that could explain why we are so messed up. And then
one of several reasons. Yeah.
Right.
The additional factor that apparently, according to what they say, if your gut health is bad, your brain cannot function properly.
That would stand to reason.
That would explain a lot of things, isn't it?
Yeah, especially with regard to health and 9 to 5. I mean, God, there's all kinds of things there. But yeah, like when you're on the job full time, what are you doing when it comes to flatulence, for example? Since we're on the subject,
yeah,
what are you going to do? For me, and for most guys that I knew in the workplace, that meant you went in the bathroom, you looked left, you looked right, see another dude in there, you don't care, you do it, and you're out again. Like there's no feedback loop there. It's you hiding something about yourself because I don't know, it's not proper or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but then you go to lunch with your coworkers and you eat a nice big greasy meal, at the local place that is probably way too much food, given you're probably in a sedentary lifestyle. If you're in the West, most jobs anymore, well, yeah, probably most, I'd say, are less than active, I would say. Not to say they don't exist, but yeah, we could go on and on about how that relates to health. I mean, yeah, the 9 to 5 is not good for you at all. The lighting, God, everything about it is just ugh.
So talking about homesteading and food forest, and what are your thoughts on organic farming? Because I've heard quite a lot of different opinion on that. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, yeah. I feel like, so there is definitely, mutant strains of fruit and veggies, I guess we could say, that are set up in such a way as to, be disease resistant or whatever. But at what cost is always my question when it comes to that. But if you're growing your own food forest, I would suggest that whether you start with some GMO, mutant fruit, or some, heritage seed, some whatever it is, I would suggest for most people, it's not so much that as it is just starting. And then, okay, so say you grow some annual, whatever you want to pick there.
Corn.
Say corn, yeah, sure. And you start from the mutant, and then you got some heritage stuff. Well, the heritage stuff's probably better for you right out the gates. I mean, I don't think anyone would really question that. But over time, as you're staying in the same spot and you're using the seeds over and over, they're adapting. And eventually, whether you start with A or B, you're going to end up with something that's like very well suited to where you're at. However, and I say that just as a baseline, because maybe some people can't get heritage seeds, or maybe they don't know how to get it, or maybe maybe that's too much for them. That's fine. That's okay. Just start where you're at. But if you want to start from a better place, I would definitely say the more organic, staying away from stuff that's set up to repel what naturally interacts with that food out in the wild is probably a poor idea between the two. I would definitely rather start with something more heritage or what have you. So yeah, the idea of organic, things eat things for a reason. Everything here happens if you really want to just boil it down, things happen here for a reason, whether it's, food or whatever else. So if you got a bug that's eating your food because it's organic and you're like, oh man, there's a worm in my apple or whatever. Well, that worm's there because of some other reason. So what is it? Do you have too many freaking apple trees? Are you trying to do a monoculture? If you're doing a food forest, that worm's probably going to get eaten by something that hangs out in the food forest because you have something else there too. So yeah, I feel like organic just kind of tells you that there's something wrong, and then you correct that. And then eventually you end up with a much better setup with much healthier food and much healthier you.
So would you say that we playing into probably the paradigm of good and bad, good food and bad food, by saying, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna focus on doing something organic because it's better, and then so it's like playing the game of duality, which it's okay, but we kind of try and move away from that. And that leads me to ask you another question as well, and wanted to know if you heard about this, which people now saying that, I haven't ate for 70 days and I'm fine. Basically, the concept is feeding yourself from from the light of the sun or the light within.
Sun gazing and breatharian, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if that's so, I mean, are we were we meant to eat the fruit or any food that was on this planet if we have the ability to go back to a place where we don't need food? We can just use the light and that's it. So what do you think? Do you think we were meant to actually even eat food at all, if at all?
I believe that we started out without needing to eat at all. In fact, if I recall, I'm going to butcher them, but parasympathetic and sympathetic, there's two different nervous systems in the body, and one is seemingly not connected to the other. And the one controls your organs and all your flesh suit bits that give you this illusion of needing to eat and sustain yourself and all of this stuff. And the other one just simply controls your body beyond that. And this isn't something I've versed in, so don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. But the other system controls not that, basically. And so to me, that would, if you need a little breadcrumb from another cat, breadcrumb from to follow to do your own research from a more, say, left-brained approach, I would say that's a great place to start, is just starting with something like that. I would suggest that lends itself to one of these systems being added in later and not strictly being necessary. And as far as testimonies go, to back that up, Darius has mentioned this before, that, the original template for these bodies didn't need any food at all. We didn't need food. We weren't set up to have to munch down on anything. But then from there, the first food was allegedly fruit from there. So, okay, fine. So you can take people's testimonies. You don't have to take them at face value. You can do your own research from there as well. It just depends on what type of person you are, where you want to start from, what outrages you, and what is something you'd be willing to humor. Whoever you are, just find what you're willing to humor and start there. The outrage, just push that to the side for the moment. So yeah, I would suggest that these people, and then to the point of the breatharian, the sun gazers, if they can do that, and they can be proven to do so, I believe some of them even had studies done on them, willingly subjected themselves to the science industrial complex or whatever, and had these tests ran and been wow, yeah, I mean, you're sustaining yourself. So if you got all these different, and I'm bringing up each one of these to say, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in one, there's 1, 2, 3, however many others that you could start from. If all of these are pointing to that as a suggestion, and from even my own personal experience now, I don't need as much food. And there are days I know I only eat because it's I just want to have something just because it's pleasurable, or I don't have a nutritional need for it. So if that's the case, if this keeps progressing, who knows? Maybe I'll end up being one of these people. So yeah, just do your own research. You got your own body. Run some tests on your own body. Check it out. You're here in the flesh suit now. You might as well check it out.
Yeah, why not?
So,
Yeah.
Oh no.
in that case, then, because this is what this. Okay, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, okay, we seem, because that's from someone who's really interested in homesteading, farming, not monoculture, polyculture, and organic farming. I enjoy that and being with nature, and we did it as well ourselves, homesteading and having a food forest. So I love the idea of all of this. This is something I really enjoy. We really enjoy. We've done it for a couple of years. However, it seems that we getting distracted all the time to what's really essential, because instead of doing this, and I'm talking if you are going to do homesteading and stuff like that for health purposes, shouldn't we focus on finding out about this? Why some people can just sustain themselves without eating for 70 days? And it seems that inherently we're getting distracted constantly. And how do you explain that?
Yeah, we definitely get distracted constantly. That's mindfulness 101, folks. I'll shameless plug. I will be doing some videos on that. But yeah, like it's very easy to get distracted chasing after health here. Health is a huge topic that has all matter of information and evidence, and your average Joe, average Jane will be like, yeah, well, this person said this and that person said that, and they conflict, and yet they're both healthy enough, and they seem to be doing okay. So it's like, how much of this is belief? To your point regarding good and evil, you could even talk about hospital stuff. They focus on disease; they don't focus on health when you go into a hospital, right? It's always what's wrong with you. Well, that primes you right there for being out of health, basically. So when it comes to food forests and breatharians, like, well, do you even need to grow this food? Should you be focusing somewhere else? I would suggest that your own journey will always unfold in the way it's intended to. So if your journey is taking you towards food forests, etc., maybe you don't need that, but maybe through the process of doing that, you help 20 other people. And you ultimately decide it's not something you want to do. Maybe you plant one and you eventually you're like, oh, I don't even need this. But then other people use it or see it as an example or whatever. Well, that's good. So, and that helps other people. But directly, I feel like for now, it could go either way, couldn't it? Like you could research enough that you hit a point where and through your own practice and your own testing and all that, you hit a point where you're like, no, actually, I watch the sun come up in the morning and at dawn, and I watch it go down at dusk. And I just looked in the opposite directions for that. I just had to think about where the sun up and sundown was. Like, okay, yeah, that's backwards, but not that anybody else knew, but it was funny to me. And all I have to do is just stay mindful and be in this state where I'm getting everything I need through the soul, through the spirit, through breath, and I'm sustained. And maybe somebody else can't quite get there. And that's not to say that, not to put one above the other. I don't like to think in hierarchy, but that person who needs the food forest needs the food forest, and they help other people. And maybe eventually they get to that breatharian point or whatever. But yeah, I don't feel like, regardless of where you go, it's not wasted effort. It's whatever you're pulled to because you're going to help yourself and others through, if you just listen to that inner voice.
So it makes sense, yeah.
Absolutely. That speaks to the journey that unfolded in even deciding that we wanted to start growing stuff. Because the original idea of growing stuff was like, we lived in a flat in Paris, and we had this balcony, and the balcony for us used to go out there and smoke or just sit there and have a cup of tea. And I said, what am I doing here? Like, I could have a whole pot here growing courgettes. And I had this ADHD coming through. I just got obsessed about growing at least 2 things out there in a pot. So I got this, I was like, we're going to the garden shop and we're going to get this, that, and the other. And we just went there, and then I just put this thing together, and I was like, that's my garden, and it's only 1 meter squared. And
hey, you start with what you got, right? That's awesome.
And then I planted courgettes and aubergines, and then that summer I had to leave. I had to go to England. I went on holiday, and when I came back, they were massive. They were enormous, to the point where I was like, what is this? I thought that they said mini. And I didn't understand it. And then we moved. And one thing to another, I put it at the side of I just put it aside. And we had this huge garden. And I was like, a place where the kids can run around. And I was, those people who have an amazing lawn that looks like a carpet?
Yes. All too familiar here in the States.
That was me. The lines were lining. They were amazing. The hedge, And then I said, hang on a minute, Shem, like, what are you doing? You've got all this space to grow. What about your little garden? I said, okay, we'll start off with something little. A year later, we had already moved on to whole food forest. It was like, nope, we can sustain ourselves. And then I was back in.
That's awesome.
So we were from dig style farming to no dig, like acquire a lot of knowledge and different techniques in doing so. It was a whole journey.
Yeah.
But then it's funny because I realized throughout the journey, not only there's a therapeutic aspect of it. So like you say, like maybe you may not eat the food, but that's what you gain from it for actually being in sync with nature.
Oh yeah, there's a big part of that.
So, and then also there's a feeling of being abundant. I mean, when you have like a tree or full of fruit, you're like, wow, that's mine. I've done this, although it's not yours. It's never in. There's no such things about ownership, but we can get into that conversation later. But it's like it's that, and I realized more than the food. Although the food you can enjoy it because it tastes very nice when it's yours. Maybe perhaps it's just an illusion because you're convinced yourself of it. I don't know. All I know is it tastes better than the shops.
Well, belief matters, right? And you're surrounding yourself in your own abundance. That does something up here.
You did kind of like point out the fact that you just kind of like paraphrasing, follow what you love, because ultimately, even if you don't use it, it will be felt by somebody else, even if you don't eat food for 70 days or more.
Yeah. Right. Your life is a mirror. This is one thing that I believe Bashar was the one who mentioned this, and I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but this is one part that I always gelled with and agree with. Life is a mirror and it doesn't smile until you do. So if you put that love out into it, whether you want to call it your, food, or whether it's just the food forest or whatever, you are putting that love into this. And this is something I felt, and I've just had a raised bed. Like I haven't gotten into, I'm not in a space where I could have a giant food forest at the moment or anything like that. But even just having a raised bed, even the potted eggplants I have right now, which I'm saving from frost for a few nights so they can go out for like one more week before it finally gets officially cold here. Like being around them and seeing them grow and all that, like they give back to you in ways that are not spoken, or at least not heard. But I can't even imagine being in a whole food forest like that, like just sitting there and feeling that. Because even just the raised bed was just like, the plants were like, thank you, like you feel it radiate off of them. Anyone who's had a garden, I'm sure you felt this if you've had a garden. Like you put the good vibes in, it comes right back.
It was quite extensive, actually. What we had. We had several trees.
It was a quarter. It's a quarter acre.
Yeah, it was full of it.
And we just said, we're not having any more grass. And when we said that, I can't tell you the visceral outrage from the family.
But yeah, this is another paradigm.
That's another thing. What do you mean, no grass? It was like, you've gone too far. You've lost it.
What do you mean you're not going to have this giant green carpet that you got to maintain weekly and fertilize? And, there's a dead spot. Oh, there's a weed. Are you going to go spray it? And sorry, my boomer resentment's coming out a little bit there.
We planted, believe it or not, we planted the grass from scratch. We actually did the whole lawn from scratch. So we know how to do all these things. We actually have a great expertise when it comes to that. It's just that we realized you learn so many things along the way, but a lot of old paradigm you have to drop as well. Specifically, when you follow the path of love, you realize, that is not so loving.
And then my favorite thing to do would be going out before anyone woke up in the morning and walking around the garden. And just, it was a whole it was a whole microclimate is what I can call it. That's the closest thing. It's your own microclimate. And as you've given to your plants, like you're saying, it's a relationship. Because
absolutely.
It's like, would you remember that time I was blowing and you came and propped me up? Thanks for that. And then they were like, oh my gosh, this year you are glowing. And especially like it got to the point where we were like 4 years deep, 5 years deep. So you got to see things that are from clippings to trees, gone from fruitings to years where they don't fruit and you just have to accept no fruits to share. And it's that. And it's like it really taught me to go with the ebb and flow of that. Like this year there's no fruits and that's okay. It doesn't mean cut down the tree or spray it with a whole load of stuff. It's just resting. It's given enough. Maybe this year it's just in taking mode and you're supposed to pour more love on it this year.
Is that now a mirroring of what we experience in this reality? So a lot of things also, like when it comes down to you growing your own food, has a lot of things to see with the belief you hold. For instance, we used to think, okay, well, let's do things organically. As much as there is, when you kind of go with the flow and easiness, so you become less stuck up in the way you're supposed to go a thing, let things happen naturally. I can understand because you're going with the flow, natural flow of life. But when you start saying organic and focus on illness on the plant and stuff like that, I realized that was a way for me to realize how you can manifest that in your garden. Even though you've done everything you're supposed to. And it's funny because once we finally left, I had echoing of that later when I was talking to a few people that were knowledgeable about certain things. I remember, I think it was your grand uncle. I was talking to him about, he's from the Caribbean, and he was talking to me about there's no such thing about organic coconut because the roots are going too deep in order to even be affected in the first place. I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting.
And then I thought about our asparagus after that conversation. I said,
and I go, deep it goes, and grapes as well.
I said, grapes, asparagus, then okay, because once you put in asparagus, like it's a dedication. Firstly, asparagus, you have to like wait until the vines itself, the roots itself are a certain year old to even get your first asparagus, period. So we had to buy like 5-year-old ones. That was first off. Then once you put them in the ground, then you got to wait the year they're in the ground. They won't give you nothing until you give them everything. It's like one of those ones. So once they give you, oh my, they just don't stop.
Well, I'd imagine once they're in too, right? Yeah. Like even if you were to, is that one of those types of plants that even if you were trying to like transplant it or uproot it or whatever, you come back the next year and there's still asparagus growing?
It's a rhizome. It's a root, and you are eating like the grass. It's actually a type of grass, and you're eating grass. It's just a big blade of grass that looks a bit more like, but then bamboo's a grass as well. But we don't look at it like that.
That's a good point.
So, but it's a small bamboo, I guess.
Isn't that crazy? That's like when you look at a stalk of wheat and then you look at a stalk of corn and you're like, like I see where sometime in the past you were very close to each other, even though I like one of these much more than the other. I live in Iowa and I can't stand corn on the cob. Go figure that one out. But I don't know if you're familiar with Iowa, but this is where all the corn is forever. Like the construct's going to end and there's still going to be corn here.
Oh gosh, doesn't that speak to where the corn palaces used to pop up all the time in the old fairs?
That reminds me. Yeah, so you brought up Lucian Aurelius or something like that. Yeah, I binge watched his channel a little bit, and he has an infatuation with Iowa.
Does.
And he brings up the corn palaces. Yeah, there's the corn palaces. Man, I've talked to some people about that, and they didn't even know what they looked like in spite of living here. Because you live somewhere. It's like the phenomenon of people who live in Manhattan their whole lives, but never go to the top of the new Empire State Building because they just take the view for granted, right? So I talk to people about the corn palace and show them photos, and they're like, "That was in Iowa?" Like, yeah. There's still a lot of things here that you're going to look at and go, "Where did that come from? What?" But not to get too off topic, but yeah, it's funny. So yeah.
So yeah, I was basically trying to make the relation between organic and the idea of farming better, eating better for the benefit of our health, and talking about also our perception of what it is to be healthy and not healthy, and how do you overcome bad health, or what it's perceived as such, if it even really exists. So I know you mentioned before previously that you had some health elements you had to overcome. So how did you manage to do that?
Yeah. So this would also tie into that idea, like belief. I guess you could just start with belief. Do you constantly reinforce negative things about your body? Like, I am fat, or I have arthritis, or, oh, that hip is acting up again, or whatever it is. Do you in here have a loop that's just saying, in some way or another, I am unhealthy, I am broken, I'm flawed, or whatever? If you've got anything like that, that'd be the first thing to start with, I would suggest, because that will influence, no matter what you're doing out here, that's going to keep screwing up what you're trying to do. So, because your beliefs are very, very potent, they matter. So, yeah, when it comes to health, organic, inorganic, they're not that far yet with Monsanto, but I'm sure they're getting close. Going to be eating iron corn or whatever. But if it helps your beliefs by eating organic, that you've got a belief set up where organic is healthy. Therefore, if I'm eating organic, I am healthy. Then eating organic is going to benefit you beyond just the food itself. I believe there is something to the food. If you're eating better quality food, you are getting a better quality body, because that's just how that. I mean, yeah, it's the physical part of this human life. So, but with regard to health beyond that, you have to make sure that you're tackling it from both sides, I would say. If you really want to get the most ideal situation, putting aside sun gazing, breatharian stuff, I mean, you could do that too if you want. But if you just want to start where, like, I would suggest most people are, and build them up from there. Most people are probably on a level of, they go to the supermarket, they get their food, and they come home. They don't read the ingredient label. They don't read, anything like that. So, or they do, and they have horrible beliefs about, oh, well, blah, 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 oil is in this food, therefore it's going to make me sick, or whatever. Start up here. Start with eating, start with the organic stuff. Like, if you have an Aldi where you're at, Aldi tends to have stuff that has less crap in it compared to the supermarket. So if you can start with that, while also identifying beliefs that are keeping you locked in a cycle of unhealth. So, for example, as that would apply to me in my life, yes, we spoke before the camera started rolling, that I have hemophilia. It's a bleeding disorder, and it's left me with some long-term issues, or did, regarding arthritis. It attacks your joints if it's not treated properly, and when I was younger, they didn't treat it very well. So I had arthritic ankles for a good long while, ever since high school. And very recently, I switched up my belief structure, cleaned up my diet, etc. I don't have arthritic pain in my ankles anymore. I could go for a run if I wanted to. Now, I'm not going to go run like I did when I was 15 or something, of course. But if I do that, I'm not paying for it or suffering, or like, oh, my ankle, like I'm 80 years old or whatever. So yeah, there's I would say the biggest two bastions of getting yourself straight would be, what are your beliefs regarding food and diet and nutrition and all of that? Identify the ones that are causing negative feedback loops, and then just eat better. And what's better? Well, better is cleaning yourself out and then listening to what you should be having. So depends. If you can't eat wheat very well, then you should probably stay away from wheat, but maybe you like oranges. Well, eat more oranges then, or whatever it is. But yeah, definitely that.
Omondi is vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
I am probably 80 or 90% vegetarian, but I will eat meat when I choose to.
Yeah, me too. I hear you on that.
Whenever I choose.
You're vegetarian.
Yeah, I'm so close to being vegetarian too. I understand, but man, there's some times where it's like, oh my god, like I'm at the state fair here. I go to that sometimes, and it's fair food everywhere, and it's like, here's a turkey leg that was just dumped in the most unhealthy deep fried crap ever, and just catching one little whiff of that, it's like, okay, I'm not a vegetarian for today. I can't do it. So
yeah, like why fight the feeling? Let's do this.
Right, right. But so I understand.
Yeah. And also sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm not going to eat anything, but I definitely know I need beef today, or I definitely know I need lamb today. And then I'll go with that. Sometimes I wake up and I'll be like, I need lamb liver. And then that's what I'll eat for the day. And then I won't eat anything else. So there's that.
I know exactly what you mean. I get that too.
Yeah. But I've also, these conversations that come up have also made us run into a lot of comments about people in the community who are like, no, like eating meat is the devil. Like that's wrong on a spiritual level. How can you say you're ascended or awakened in any way and harm another sentient being? Mm-hmm. Where are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I've struggled with that one myself because on the one hand, brought up earlier, fruit, just to start with that. The tree or bush or whatever is like, here, bloop, here's this little thing. You may take this off of me and consume it, and you're not going to cause any harm to me. And in fact, you're going to help me because you're going to make more little fruit out there when you go poop my seeds out or whatever it is. Not to get too graphic, but you get, like there's an exchange.
Yeah, the poop loop.
The poop loop, yes. But when it comes to animals, they are alive because they wish to be alive. That's another soul, if you will, in that animal body that's living out its life. And I would suggest ending it prematurely is severely damaging its quality of life and probably not allowing it to have its experience. Now, maybe there are souls that come here and like, I want to be a cow and get eaten. I don't know. Maybe that's a soul level choice. That'd be very strange to me. But if you even want to just remove the soul spirit aspect of it, you are prematurely ending the life of something and causing it undue suffering in order to sustain yourself. On some level, that's not exactly right. And I think anybody who eats meat, who can sit down and just be honest with themselves about that part, will ultimately arrive at that, where it's like, ooh, yeah, that's not the best possible outcome for that creature, I would suggest. I mean, if I were to just go send off to the slaughterhouse and, somebody ate humans or whatever, well, maybe that's a conversation for another day. But, obviously that would cut things short for me. So from my own personal standpoint, yeah, I think it is just a bit of a mark or a bit of a mar or whatever on my report card as far as how I'm living here. Does that make it wrong? Well, then you could go a step further. There are animals that eat animals, and that's how they sustain themselves. That's like, they're not sitting around moralizing this. They gotta eat. So is it that wrong? Is it just some strange little gray area that's unique to this place? Maybe that could be, because I know, so I can speak from my own personal experience. I feel better in here when I'm not eating meat, if I can do it, which I have done it a couple times and gone anywhere between 1 to 5 months, I think, without meat. Felt better. Oh, but steaks though. You get those cravings. So yeah, it's, I don't think it's doing me any favors to eat meat, but I also don't think it's necessarily a detriment either. Like it's just this weird little gray area, because we are one of the only creatures here that can elect to be like, no, I don't want to end another life in order to sustain myself. So yeah, it's
it is a gray area.
I'm gonna share some of my experience and things that I've heard before and things I've noticed then on that subject. And it's very interesting how you presented it, this gray area. And I think everything is interlinked. although I'm someone who used to eat meat, but I choose not to do that. And I realized, and it wasn't some things that I was going to do anyway. It's just Shem starting presenting the idea. I went along, and I had memories when I was a kid, because I grew up in a farm where part of eating meat was kind of like almost obligatory. You had to do it. You could not just say you don't want it. It's like, you got to eat.
Right. But you probably also got to see how it was made too, huh?
Right. But I remember another thing, as I used to have to pluck out the feathers of the chicken. And that's something I used to hate doing. And then I remembered, as I was, reliving the feelings, that I never actually liked meat. I remember the chicken was too dry for me. I remember like ham was dry as well. I remember that if we had to eat in a sandwich, we had to just put butter and add on stuff to it, because it wasn't never really, really nice. And I asked myself, did I ever really like it? And I was also... I wasn't eating fish either, because I had a fish bone stuck in my throat when I was a kid.
I remember your story.
Yeah, I had to remove that, and I realized that since I never really liked fish, is it because of that experience? I don't know, but it seems that anything surrounding sort of meat, I never really enjoyed it. I just went along more by habit, and the habit can create sort of cravings that aren't really real. And then you crave, but then when you have a moment to think to yourself, you realize that, okay, now I'm off of it. I never really liked it. So that was my experience. But anyway, moving on from that point, heard also that because slaughterhouse is still a new thing. It's not really that old, and people had to hunt for the meat, tribes and stuff like that. And the
not
term,
even Pappy.
yeah, as well. But it was,
but he's a hunter for food. They used to hunt and then eat it. It's not like they just hunt and
I guess so. Yeah.
Like it was.
But I'm talking about something way more what we would say ancestral than now, where the idea of offering. So the animals come to a certain point in their life, used to, once they soul contract was fulfilled, offer themselves to be basically killed and eaten. So and it was a mutual relationship between the animal and the hunter. They didn't used to actually, matter of fact, there was no hunting. It would just come there, and I was in agreement. They used to understand. I guess maybe they used to use certain means of communication we're not using today, and so there was like a mutual understanding, and that's only how it took place. It's just that this is not happening anymore that way. So I can understand why people feel that way, but it's like the end of the soul contract. So it wasn't premature, like you suggested. Although if it's premature, is that not a soul contract that's been predetermined to happen that way as well? So how do you differentiate that? And just for the sake of not judging whether you eat meat or you don't eat meat, is that perhaps some things that on some higher level we have to have acceptance for, no matter what?
Sure. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I completely forgot about that. And that's a very good point. The hunter paradigm, the animals offering themselves is like, how do you take that any other way at that point? Like, okay, well, I'm a hunter. You showed up. But regarding soul contract level things, right, this is the part that boggles my human mind. I'm sure it makes much more sense on a soul level. But if an animal is here and dies prematurely for the sake of meat, surely they knew that was at least a potential, if not a very strong possibility, if not an inevitability. So is there really anything wrong in that? Well, from the human angle, you can moralize it all you'd like. From the soul angle, it just is. Basically, all things just are. So, yeah, if you look at it from a soul perspective, it's just a choice, and it just is, because we made our choices. That animal chose to be here, blah, blah, blah. From the human perspective, not to get too graphic, but So I used to do tech. That was my background is in tech, and I've had to do tech at hog confinements here in the Midwest. Ooh, if you want to cure yourself of your meat addiction any faster, I don't know of a faster way to do that. So if they chose to be here and chose to go through all the suffering that I got to see, and not to moralize, if you eat meat, cool. Like I said, I still do. So, but when it comes to, soul level contracts and all of that, if they chose to come here and suffer in that way, well, good for them, I guess. But from a human perspective, it's like, that's horrifying. So is this just part of the game then? Do you just, like the honorable hunter that, kills after hunting for there's effort involved, there's veneration for the animal and all of that. I feel like if you're going to eat meat and try to keep on like a higher way of doing it, that's probably the highest way you could do it with the animal offering, or even if you go and hunt, use every part of the animal, etc. It feels like it's such a conundrum of this place, because the one that you mentioned regarding hunting, to me, would be the highest choice. If you're going to eat meat, you hunted for it, it offered itself, and you used every part of the animal. Like there was an honor and a respect there, versus a hog confinement, which is what they're called here. I don't know if you have these wonderful things over in Europe, but
yes,
yeah, yeah, big time.
Yeah, I would suggest that's probably the lowest way that's currently here, at least, of handling the meat question. So,
but then is that raising the fact that everything is intended to take place in the way we witness it?
Right.
There's no mistake, even the way it's produced now, whereas they're doing it a lot for monetary reasons as well, to make profit and whatnot. So it's not produced with the same energy, and perhaps is it because from a perspective of hunting and then being the animal, perhaps it's the all complete experience playing out. So on one lifetime, you used to be the animals. Now you want to know what it is to experience being the hunter. And in order for the soul to experience the soul loop and then be resolved and finish with it, this had to take place. It just was probably difficult for us to take. I would say it's the fact that now we can't decipher if it's if we went too far, or if it's for greed or whatever it is.
I think it's the idea of, again, not wanting to ever accept that you'd ever step into the role of the bad guy.
Bad guy, yeah.
It's the bad guy thing again, popping up.
Right,
That's what I think we wrestle with.
Oh, definitely. And even as I sit here and try to moralize on it, it's all from the human perspective, right? It's all from the little perspective. You and your actor role, but from a bigger perspective, as you suggest, perhaps this is part of the play right now, so people can understand why, process those feelings on meat right now as it is. Because in the past, perhaps it was much more, not getting into the timeline, but perhaps in the past it was much more of the hunter dynamic. And, that anybody who sits with this, that I've talked to at least, and if you don't, that's cool. I haven't known you. Hi. But you can feel a difference between imagining yourself as the hunter and going through that scenario versus imagining yourself as the industrial farmer or whatever. And from a human perspective, you may feel ways about that. From a soul level, it's just experiences. So at this time, we're having these experiences so that we know what it feels like. So yeah, as you say, perhaps you've been the hog in the hog confinement, and now you're the farmer, and now you know from both sides how that feels. And that's valuable to you because you take that beyond this lifetime. That makes so much more sense to process it on that higher meta pulled back observer level, because you can have multiple experiences and then you gain the soul loop, as you say, you got the whole thing. So to me, that would make the most sense, instead of getting, when you come down to the human level, it's almost like you're splitting hairs with certain things. Yeah. So, yeah.
And the splitting hairs thing just immediately spoke to me, because I was like, that's the whole point of the fractal experience. But at this point, it's just a shard of consciousness getting that one little piece of information it needed to complete that big puzzle. And when I think about the whole process that I went through for firstly deciding I'm not going to eat meat anymore, and then I probably went 5 years no meat, and I didn't even think about meat once. And then I went through my first pregnancy without any meat whatsoever. My first 3 pregnancies I had before that, I was eating horse, I had venison, and gladly, deliciously, no regrets. But this one, it was like, I don't require it this time. I didn't have the craving for it. But as soon as I'd had him, a question started coming up in me. But naturally, as you're saying, like, are you listening to your body? Are you listening to what your body's asking you? So now I'm at this place where it's like, I really don't judge if you want to be vegan or if you want to be a full meat eater, because I've even seen in the comment section, there's people who are in their 50s, said they were vegans as children, they were brought up, they've always been vegans, and then they have now had meat, they've gone paleo, I think it's called paleo or paleo diet.
Yep.
Changed their life, changed their health totally, and they feel like a brand new person. Who am I to judge that person to say, do they not know what it is to be vegan?